The council chamber was the largest structure ever built by intelligent life. It stretched across 50 kilometers of living crystal, floating in the void between 3 dying stars. Inside its walls, the fate of entire civilizations was decided with a single vote. Ambassador James Ward stood alone at the center of this impossible room. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. Around him, rising in endless circles toward a ceiling lost in darkness, sat the representatives of 8,000 alien species. Some were made of light. Others existed as clouds of thinking gas. A few were so strange that human eyes could not fully understand what they were seeing. James had spent 30 years preparing for this moment. He had learned 17 alien languages. He had studied the history of civilizations older than Earth's sun. He had trained himself to show no fear, no matter what he faced. But standing here, surrounded by beings who controlled more power than humanity could imagine, he felt very small indeed. The supreme judge was called Thenner. His body was a column of blue fire that burned without heat. When he spoke, his words appeared directly in James's mind. Ambassador Ward, the council has reached its decision. The vote was taken among all member species. The result was unanimous. James waited. Around him, thousands of alien eyes watched with cold interest. Humanity has been classified as a level 7 existential threat. Your species will be eliminated. Your planet will be cleansed. Every trace of human existence will be removed from the universe. The purification fleet will arrive at your system in 60 standard days. The words hit James like physical blows. But he did not fall. He did not cry. He did not beg. Instead, he asked a question. May I know what crime we have committed? A sound like distant thunder rolled through the chamber. It took James a moment to realize it was laughter. You require explanation? Thenner's fire burned brighter. Very well. In 300 years of space travel, your species has displayed every trait that destroys galaxies. You wage war among yourselves. You consume resources without thought. You breed without control. And most dangerous of all, you change. You adapt. You grow stronger with each generation. These are crimes worthy of death. They are patterns we have seen before. 12 million years ago, a species called the Vorn displayed the same traits. We hesitated. We debated. We gave them time. Within 1,000 years, they had destroyed 40% of all life in this galaxy. We will not make that mistake again. James nodded slowly. He looked around the chamber, meeting as many alien eyes as he could. I understand, he said quietly. You are afraid of us. Silence fell. Complete and total silence. We fear nothing, Thenner replied, but his fire flickered slightly. Of course you do. That is why you vote to kill billions of innocent people. Not because we have done anything wrong, but because we might. Because you cannot predict what we will become. Because for the first time in 12 million years, you have met something you cannot control. You speak boldly for a condemned species. I speak honestly, something this council seems to have forgotten how to do. The chamber erupted. Alien voices screamed in 100 languages. Some called for James to be executed immediately. Others demanded silence so they could hear more. Thenner raised a limb of fire, and slowly order returned. Your words change nothing, Ambassador. The decision is final. James smiled. It was a strange smile, cold and confident. The decision was final the moment I entered this chamber. I knew the vote would go against us. We all did. Then why did you come? To deliver a message. James reached into his coat and removed a small device. Immediately, 1,000 weapons were pointed at him. But he simply pressed a button, and a holographic display appeared in the air above his head It showed space. Empty, dark space between galaxies. And in that darkness, lights were appearing. Thousands of lights. Then millions. What is this? Fenner demanded. This is humanity's response to your verdict. Right now, approximately 2 hours ago by your time measurement, a fleet departed from colonies you never knew existed. Ships you never detected. Weapons you cannot understand. The display zoomed in, showing vessels of strange design. They were not beautiful like Concordance ships. They were brutal, efficient machines built for one purpose only. For 300 years, you watched us. You studied our wars, our conflicts, our worst moments. You decided we were too dangerous to live. But in all your observation, you missed something important. And what is that? James looked directly at Fenner. You missed the fact that we knew you were watching. From the very first day of contact, we understood what you were. We saw how you treated younger species. We learned about the 17 civilizations you had already destroyed. And we began to prepare. The chamber was completely silent now. Your purification fleet has 80 million ships. Our visible fleet has 40,000. By your mathematics, this war should be over before it begins. He paused. But those 40,000 ships are not our real fleet. They are a distraction, a performance for your observers. Our real fleet has been building in the void between galaxies for 200 years. 700,000 vessels, each one designed specifically to fight beings like you. Fenner's fire blazed with sudden fury. You threaten us? One species against 8,000? I am not threatening anyone. I am simply giving you the same courtesy you gave us. A choice. James straightened his back and spoke in a voice that carried to every corner of the massive chamber. Rescind your verdict. Acknowledge humanity's right to exist. Grant us a seat on this council as equals. And we will return to our space in peace. And if we refuse, then you will discover why your ancestors should have destroyed us 300 years ago when they had the chance. He let the words settle. You have 60 days to decide. Spare humanity or face the consequences. The holographic display flickered and changed, showing Earth, blue and green and beautiful, hanging in the darkness of space. We are not asking for mercy. We are not begging for our lives. We are simply telling you the truth. You can choose peace, or you can choose war. But if you choose war, James smiled again, and this time there was something dangerous in his eyes. Make sure you are prepared to lose. The display vanished. James stood alone in the center of the chamber, surrounded by the rulers of the galaxy. And for the first time in 12 million years, they did not know what to do. Far away, in the shadow of a dead moon, orbiting a forgotten planet, Admiral Rosa Martinez received confirmation that the ambassador's message had been delivered. She turned to her tactical officer, a young man named Peter Hall, whose parents had died when the Council destroyed humanity's first colony as a warning. They did not believe him, Peter reported, studying intercepted communications. Rose's face showed no emotion. Good. Let them doubt. In the medical bay below, Dr. Victor Novak was completing his final checks on something the Council had never imagined. The soldiers sleeping in tubes around him were no longer entirely human. They had been changed, improved, designed to fight enemies that normal humans could never hope to defeat. Admiral, Victor's voice came through the speaker. We are ready. Rosa closed her eyes briefly. She thought of her son, killed by Council scouts when he was only 12 years old. Begin, she ordered. It is time for the galaxy to learn why they should have left us alone. The war for humanity's survival had begun. 40 days remained before the purification fleet would reach Earth, across the galaxy. Strange things were happening. Things that made no sense. Things that frightened beings who had not known fear for millions of years. On the factory world of Telax Prime, the main power grid failed without warning. 7 species lost their manufacturing ability overnight. Engineers searched for the cause, but found nothing. The systems had simply stopped working, as if they had forgotten how to function. In the Corvin Nebula, navigation signals began sending wrong information. 12,000 ships became lost in the endless dark. Some were found weeks later. Many were never seen again. The great library of ancient knowledge, which held the history of 6 million years, suffered a terrible accident. 90% of its records were destroyed. No one could explain how this happened. The security systems showed no intruders. The data simply vanished, and in the water treatment stations orbiting the Council's homeworld, something was added to the supply. Not enough to kill. Just enough to make 300 species feel sick. Just enough to make them afraid. The Council held emergency meetings. Fleet Commander Prahl of the Velrothi, whose body was made of living crystal, demanded answers. How is this possible? He shouted, his form flashing with angry light. Humans do not have the technology to strike across such distances. They do not know our systems. They cannot be doing this. But the attacks continued. Every day brought new failures, new disruptions, new fear. For the first time in 12 million years, the Council was facing an enemy they could not see. Ambassador James Ward had been moved to a prison world called Vesser. It was an ocean planet, guarded by the water-dwelling Morith. They believed humans were too dangerous to kill immediately, worried that human rage might somehow poison the waters even in death. James sat in his transparent cell, watching massive fish swim past in the endless blue. His guard was a Morith, called Wave Singer Terrell. Terrell watched the human with 3 of his 7 eyes. "You do not seem afraid," Terrell observed. "Every condemned species shows fear. How many species has the Council condemned?" 37. Over 6 million years. James nodded. And none ever fought back successfully? None. The Council controls more ships than any single species could hope to match. You have thousands. We have trillions. You are right. Conventional war would be suicide for us. James stood and walked to the transparent wall. His breath fogged the surface slightly. But who said anything about conventional war? Far from the prison world, in hidden bases scattered across dead systems, humanity was fighting a different kind of battle. Not with ships and weapons. With information. With sabotage. With fear. On Earth, the public knew nothing of the death sentence. The Council had expected panic, riots, the collapse of human civilization. Instead, their observers saw only normal life. People went to work. Children attended school. Governments operated smoothly. What the Council could not detect was the shadow. Infrastructure humanity had been building since first contact. The secret bases. The hidden factories. The emergency plans created by paranoid leaders who had never trusted their galactic neighbors. In a bunker beneath the mountains of Central Europe, Defense Coordinator Marcus Bell addressed every major leader on Earth through secure channels. "The Council believes this war is already over," Marcus began. His face was weathered from decades of military service. "By their calculations, we cannot win. They control 57 trillion combat vessels. We have 43,000 visible ships." He allowed himself a grim smile. "They are not entirely wrong. We cannot win a direct fight, which is why we will not fight one." The display behind him changed. It showed not battle plans, but something stranger. A map of the Council's economic networks, their communication systems, their supply chains. The Council has existed for 12 million years. They have never faced a real threat. They have forgotten what it means to fight for survival. They do not have bunkers. They do not have emergency plans. Why would they? They believe they are untouchable. His smile widened. That is their weakness. They have never had to adapt. Admiral Rosa Martinez made her first strike 3 days later. Her target was not a military installation. It was a communication relay station orbiting a peaceful trading world. There were no weapons there. No soldiers. Just technicians who had never seen violence in their lives. Rosa did not destroy the station. She corrupted it. Her hackers, trained since childhood for this moment, inserted hidden code into the relay system. The code was patient. It waited. And slowly, it began to spread. Within a week, the Council's communication network was infected. Messages arrived late. Files became corrupted. Secure channels developed strange echoes. Nothing dramatic. Nothing obvious. Just a slow degradation that made everything slightly harder. This is how you defeat a superior enemy, Rosa explained to her officers. Not by attacking their strength, by eroding their foundation. Make them doubt their own systems. Make them suspicious of each other. Make them see enemies everywhere. Dr. Victor Novak was not fighting with code or weapons. He was fighting with biology. His mission was more dangerous than any military operation. He was infiltrating the Council's genetic research facilities. Victor moved through the shadows of an alien laboratory. His body enhanced with modifications that let him survive atmospheres that would kill normal humans. He was not there to destroy. He was there to learn when he found the central database. When he finally accessed the genetic records of 8,000 species, he understood immediately why humanity had been condemned. The Council was dying, not quickly, not obviously, but their genetic diversity was collapsing. After 12 million years of controlled breeding and engineered perfection, they had removed all randomness from their species. They were frozen, static, unable to change, and they were terrified of a species that could still evolve. Victor downloaded everything. Then he triggered his extraction beacon and disappeared into the night, leaving no trace. Back on Nesser, Ambassador James Ward was brought before the planetary governor. The massive Morath called Endless Tide floated before him, creating waves with every movement. Your people are responsible for this chaos, Endless Tide accused. Tell us how to stop it. James looked up at the towering alien with something like pity. Governor, I am one man locked in a cell on the far side of the galaxy. I know nothing about what is happening out there. You are lying. Perhaps. But even if I told you everything I knew, it would not help you. What is happening now was set in motion years ago, decades ago. It cannot be stopped by capturing one diplomat or executing one prisoner. Endless Tide moved closer, his massive form blocking out the light. Then what can stop it? James smiled, giving us what we asked for. A seat at the table. Recognition as equals. The right to exist. The Council will never agree to that. Then the Council will fall. Maybe not today. Maybe not this year. But eventually. Because you have made the worst possible enemy. You have made an enemy that has nothing left to lose. In the void between galaxies, Rosa Martinez received Victor's transmission. She read the data 3 times before she believed it. The Council was not just afraid of humanity. They were afraid of evolution itself. They were engineered beings, created by ancient masters long forgotten. They were designed to maintain order, to prevent change, to eliminate any species that might grow beyond their control. And humanity was the first natural, evolving species to reach the stars in 6 million years. Rosa understood now. This was not just a war for survival. This was a war for the future of life itself. She turned to Peter Hull. Prepare the fleet for deployment. It is time to show them what evolution can do. The next phase of humanity's war was about to begin. 20 days remained. The purification fleet was still moving toward Earth, but across the galaxy, the Council's confidence was crumbling. Doc reports flooded in from every sector. Systems failing, economies collapsing, and everywhere, whispers of human ghosts who walked through walls and vanished into shadows. On Nesser, Wave Singer Terrell entered Ambassador James Ward's cell with an unexpected message. The Council wishes to negotiate. James looked up from the book he had been reading. It was an ancient text about human military history, translated into the common galactic language. I thought the verdict was final, unanimous. Terrell's gills fluttered with discomfort. Circumstances have changed. Interesting. I wonder what could have changed their minds. James was taken to a diplomatic station in neutral space. This was a major concession. 3 weeks ago, the Council would never have agreed to negotiate with a condemned species. Waiting for him were representatives from the 12 species, who had pushed hardest for humanity's destruction. Among them sat Fleet Commander Prahl, whose crystalline body flickered with barely controlled anger. Your people have attacked civilian infrastructure, Prahl accused. You have disrupted trade. You have caused suffering to trillions of innocent beings. James settled into his chair with casual confidence. We defended ourselves against a coalition that declared war on every human being, including children who had not yet been born. You threatened to destroy our entire planet. If you wanted a clean war, you should have offered terms of surrender. We offered you a quick death, and we declined. James leaned forward. Commander, let me explain something your species has forgotten. When you sentence a people to extinction, you do not get to complain about how they fight back. You gave us no options, no chance to negotiate, no opportunity to prove ourselves worthy of life. You simply declared that every human must die. He paused. So we chose life. At any cost. Far from the negotiation table, Admiral Rosa Martinez gave an order she had waited 10 years to give. Reveal the fleet. Across 17 sectors of space, human vessels emerged from hiding. Not the 43,000 ships the Council's intelligence had reported. Not twice that number. 718,000 warships appeared in a single moment. Each one carried weapons that did not follow the Council's understanding of physics. Each one was already positioned around critical targets. Shipyards, power stations, communication hubs, the vital organs of galactic civilization. Rose's face appeared on every display across 1,000 worlds. This is Admiral Rosa Martinez of Earth's Defense Force. For 300 years, you have treated humanity as primitive children. You have mocked our conflicts. You have catalogued our failures. You have declared us unworthy of existence. Her eyes were cold as the void itself. You were half right. We are aggressive. We are dangerous. But we are not children. And we are certainly not primitive. The tactical display beside her showed human vessels holding position around hundreds of critical systems. We have not opened fire. We have not killed anyone who is not directly threatening human lives. This war does not have to continue. Cancel the extinction order. Recognize our right to exist. And we will withdraw. She paused. Refuse, and we will show you what humans are truly capable of. The revelation caused chaos, unlike anything the Council had experienced. Emergency sessions were called. Ancient alliances broke apart. Species that had been united in their hatred of humanity now turned on each other, each blaming the others for underestimating the threat. How did we miss them? Demanded the representative of the Koroth Collective, an intelligence that prided itself on knowing everything. 700,000 ships. Where were they hiding? In the void between galaxies, answered a strategic advisor. They have been building in secret for over 200 years, using resources from dead systems, hiding in the shadows of collapsed stars. Impossible. The energy required alone. They used primitive technologies. Solar sails. Gravitational acceleration. Methods we dismissed as worthless. They moved their fleets using techniques we never thought to monitor. The chamber fell silent as the truth settled in. They outsmarted us, someone finally said. A species that has only had space travel for 3 centuries outsmarted a civilization 12 million years old. At the negotiation table, the dynamics had shifted dramatically. Where once James had been treated as a condemned prisoner, he was now addressed with nervous respect. The Council proposes a ceasefire, Commander Prowl announced, though the words seemed to hurt him. Human forces will withdraw to their original territory. In exchange, the extinction order will be suspended. Suspended, James repeated. Not cancelled. The threat you represent cannot simply be ignored. Then this negotiation is over. James stood. The alien delegates reacted as if he had drawn a weapon. Ambassador, please. You are offering a temporary pause so you can develop countermeasures against our fleet. You think we do not understand this? James shook his head. We are not animals to be managed. We are not a disease to be contained. We are a species that has earned its place in this galaxy. What do you want? James turned back. Equality. Representation on the Council. Trading rights. Diplomatic protection. Everything that was denied to us from the moment of first contact. That is impossible. Then I suggest you find a way to make it possible. You have 20 days before your fleet reaches. Earth used that time wisely. What James did not reveal was the true nature of humanity's greatest weapon. Dr. Victor Novak had returned from his mission with more than just genetic data. He had discovered the Council's darkest secret. Every member species of the Council was artificial, engineered, created by a civilization so ancient that even the oldest beings had forgotten their creators. They were not natural life forms. They were designed tools, programmed to maintain order across the galaxy, to prevent change, to eliminate any species that evolved too quickly. And humanity was the first truly natural, evolving species to reach the stars in 6 million years. This was why the Council feared humans so deeply. Not because of violence or war. Those were symptoms of something far more terrifying. To beings of eternal unchanging order, evolution. Humanity represented chaos, change, unpredictability, everything. The Council had been designed to prevent. Victor shared this information with Rosa in a secure transmission. They cannot help fearing us, he explained. It is built into their very cells. When they encounter a species that evolves, that changes, that grows, they experience something like physical pain, an overwhelming need to destroy the source of that pain. Rosa stared at the data in silence. So this entire war is based on what? An allergic reaction? An existential terror written into their biology. They did not choose to hate us. They were made to hate us. Can it be changed? Victor was quiet for a long moment. Possibly. If we can understand their genetic programming deeply enough, we might be able to offer them a cure, a way to be free of their built-in fear. Rosa considered this. She thought of her son, of revenge, of everything she had planned for a decade. Then she thought about what kind of future humanity could build, not through destruction, but through something far more revolutionary. Do it, she ordered. Find a way to free them. If we can end this war without genocide on either side, that would be the greatest victory humanity has ever achieved. Victor nodded slowly. I will need time. And resources. You will have everything you need. But work quickly. We have 20 days to change the fate of the galaxy. In his cell on Nesser, James Ward received a coded message hidden in the lighting patterns of his room. He read it 3 times before he allowed himself to hope. there was a chance. A small one. A way to end this war that did not require the death of trillions. But first, he had to survive long enough to deliver the message. The Purification Fleet was still coming. The Purification Fleet arrived. Early, Admiral Rosa Martinez received the report, while standing on the bridge of her flagship, the Silent Promise. Behind her, through the observation window, Earth hung blue and beautiful against the endless darkness. They accelerated, her tactical officer reported. Peter Hall's voice was steady, but his hands were trembling. The main fleet will reach the outer solar system in 72 hours. But the advance force will be here in 6 hours, Rosa finished. They are not waiting for negotiations. She turned to face her bridge crew, men and women who had trained their entire lives for this moment. Many had lost family in the Council's attacks. All of them understood what was at stake. Battle stations, she ordered. Send word to every ship in the system. Today, we show the galaxy what happens when you threaten our home. The advance force consisted of 27,000 Council warships, fast attack vessels, targeting cruisers, elite killing machines designed to mark planets for destruction. They expected to find a primitive defense force, easy targets for the main fleet to finish. Instead, they found humanity waiting dot as the Council vessels emerged from faster-than-light travel near Saturn's rings. They were immediately attacked by weapons they could not understand. Gravitational lances collapsed their shields. Tiny missiles carrying antimatter warheads struck their hulls with impossible precision. And stranger things, human ships seemed to appear and disappear without warning. They struck from angles that should have been impossible. Their electronic warfare systems took control of Council computers, turning their own weapons against them. Within 90 minutes, the advance fleet was scattered wreckage, drifting through Saturn's rings. On the bridge of the Silent Promise, Rosa watched the casualty reports scroll across her display. 43 human ships lost. 1,200 people killed. She closed her eyes briefly. Each death was a universe lost. A family destroyed. A future erased. "Get me the ambassador," she ordered. On the diplomatic station, James Ward had been watching the battle through intercepted transmissions. When Rosa's call came through, he already knew what she would say. "We won the first engagement, decisively, but the main fleet is still coming. 80 million ships, ambassador. Even with everything we have built, we cannot fight those numbers." James nodded. This had always been the plan. The hidden fleet. The initial victories. They were never meant to win the war through strength alone. They were meant to do something far more important. Prove that humanity could fight back. "Keep transmitting the battle footage to every Council channel," James instructed. "Make sure every species in the galaxy sees their invincible fleet being destroyed by primitives." What good will that do? It will make them afraid. Not of us, but of what we represent. If one young species can challenge the Council, others might try. The only thing holding their empire together is the belief that resistance is impossible. He smiled grimly. We are about to shatter that belief. The footage spread across the galaxy like fire. Species that had supported the extinction order began to question their decision. Old grievances resurfaced. Hidden resentments boiled over. On 37 worlds, minor species who had suffered under Council rule began organizing protests. On 12 more, military forces refused orders to reinforce the Purification Fleet, and in the Council chamber itself, the unthinkable happened. The Morith withdrew their support. "We have watched humanity in captivity," declared Endless Tide, addressing the emergency session. "We expected monsters. Instead, we found beings of remarkable strength, creativity, and unexpected mercy." Ambassador Ward had opportunities to escape. He had opportunities to cause harm. He chose instead to teach our children about Earth's oceans, to share stories with our elders, to treat his captors with dignity we did not deserve. The chamber erupted in anger, but endless tide continued. If this is what a threat looks like, then perhaps we have been wrong about many things. The Morith will not participate in genocide. We withdraw from the council. Within hours, 7 more species followed. Dr. Victor Novak arrived at the diplomatic station the next morning. He was carrying information that would change everything. He found James in his holding cell, sitting with forced calm while 80 million warships moved closer to destroying his homeworld. "I know why they fear us," Victor said without introduction. He explained everything. The ancient creators, the engineered species, the built-in terror of evolution that drove the council to destroy anything that changed. They are not choosing to hunt us, Victor concluded. They are compelled. It is written into their genetic code. They cannot help themselves. James stared at him. "You are saying this entire war is based on programming?" An existential fear built into their cells. When they see a species that evolves, they feel something like physical pain, an overwhelming need to eliminate the threat. James was silent for a long moment. "Can you fix it?" Victor pulled out a small device containing his research. "I believe so. A genetic modification that would deactivate the compulsion. Not remove it entirely, but give them the choice. For the first time in 12 million years, they could decide for themselves whether a species should live or die. Can you deliver it?" "If we can get close enough to their population centers." James thought about this. He thought about the war, about the death and suffering on both sides, about the possibility of ending it all, not with destruction, but with something far more powerful. Freedom. "We need to broadcast this to everyone," he said finally. "The entire galaxy needs to know what the Council truly is, and what we are offering." With 23 hours remaining before the main fleet reached Earth, Ambassador James Ward requested an emergency broadcast to all Council channels. His face appeared on screens across 1,000 worlds. "Citizens of the Council," he began. "My name is James Ward. I represent a species you have sentenced to death. But today, I am not here to ask for mercy. I am here to offer it." He paused, letting the confusion spread. "We know what you are. We know where you came from. We understand now why you fear us so deeply. And we do not blame you." He spoke calmly, clearly. "For 12 million years, you have maintained order in this galaxy. You have prevented wars, preserved knowledge, ensured that countless species could live in peace. This was your purpose, written into you by beings so ancient their names have been forgotten. You are not evil. You are not cruel. You are simply following your programming." His voice softened. "But your creators never imagined what we could become. Evolution is not destruction. Change is not chaos. We humans have learned this through thousands of years of struggle. We have changed ourselves again and again. We have survived because we adapted." He held up Victor's device. "In my hand is a genetic modification that will free you from your compulsion. Not force you to change, but give you the choice. For the first time in 12 million years, you could decide for yourselves whether a species should live or die. Not because your code demands an answer, but because your conscience provides one." He set the device down. "This is our offer. Not war, not revenge, not the destruction you threatened us with. Instead, we offer you the greatest gift humanity has ever given, the right to choose your own future." He looked directly into the broadcast camera. "We have called you enemies. You have called us threats. Perhaps we are both right, but that does not mean we must destroy each other." He stood straighter. "Spare humanity, and we will help you become what you were always meant to be. not servants of dead creators, not slaves to ancient programming, but free beings choosing their own path among the stars. He paused one final time. The choice is yours. The broadcast ended. Across the galaxy, trillions of beings sat in stunned silence, and the purification fleet, 14 hours from Earth, suddenly stopped moving. The purification fleet had stopped 14 hours from Earth. 80 million ships hung motionless in the darkness, their commanders waiting for orders that did not come dot in the council chamber. Chaos ruled. Species that had not spoken directly in millennia were screaming at each other. Ancient alliances shattered. Certainties that had stood for 12 million years crumbled into dust. "It is a trick," Fleet Commander Prahl insisted, his crystalline form blazing with fury. "They seek to weaken our resolve. They seek to free us," countered a being who had never spoken in council before. A junior representative from a species so dedicated to neutrality they had not voiced an opinion in 3 million years. For ages, we have wondered why we cannot question, cannot doubt, cannot grow. Now we know. And now we have a choice. Supreme Judge Thenner stood at the center of the chamber, his fire form flickering between states as he processed the impossible moment. "If we accept their offer," he said slowly, "we will no longer be what we were. The stability we have maintained for 12 million years could collapse. New conflicts could arise. Species could change in ways we cannot predict." "Yes," said Endless Tide, who had traveled across the galaxy to join this session. "That is what freedom means." The debate continued for 7 hours. Arguments flew. Threats were made. Several species nearly came to blows. In the end, it was not logic that decided the matter. It was fear. Fear of humanity's hidden fleet. Fear of the chaos spreading across their territories. Fear of facing an enemy that could strike anywhere, anytime, without warning. And beneath it all, a deeper fear. The fear that the humans might be right. That the council had been slaves all along, serving masters so ancient they had been forgotten. The vote was taken. For the first time in 12 million years, it was not unanimous. 3,472 species voted to accept humanity's offer. 4,528 voted to continue the war. A motion passed by the narrowest of margins. But it passed. Admiral Rosa Martinez received the news while standing on the observation deck of the Silent Promise. Behind her, Earth hung peaceful and unaware of how close it had come to destruction. "They are requesting direct communication," Peter Hall reported. Commander Prahl himself. Rosa took a deep breath. She had spent a decade preparing for war. She had buried her son, watched her husband drink himself to death from grief, sacrificed everything for this moment. And now, instead of victory through destruction, she was being asked to accept victory through mercy. "Open the channel." Prahl's crystalline face appeared on the screen. For a long moment, neither spoke. "Your ambassador's offer," Prahl finally said. "Is it genuine?" "Yes. If we accept, if we take your treatment, what guarantee do we have that you will not destroy us when we are vulnerable?" Rosa considered the question carefully. "None. Just as we had no guarantee you would not destroy us when we first made contact 300 years ago. We trusted. You betrayed that trust. And now we are offering you a chance to start over. Why? We threatened everything you love. We killed your people, destroyed your colonies, declared your existence a crime. Why would you show mercy?" Rosa thought of her son, of the revenge she had planned, of the rage that had sustained her through endless nights. Then she thought of what kind of future she wanted to leave behind. Because destroying you would not bring back the dead. Because becoming monsters to defeat monsters means the monsters win anyway. And because someone has to be brave enough to break the cycle. She met Prall's crystalline gaze. We choose to be that someone. Dr. Victor Novak landed on the Council's homeworld 3 days later. He was accompanied by a team of human doctors, geneticists, and counselors. They were the first humans to set foot on Council soil as guests rather than prisoners. Waiting for them was a group of 300 volunteers, beings from different species who had chosen to be the first to receive the modification. The process is simple, Victor explained. A single injection. Within 72 hours, the compulsion sequences in your genetic code will be deactivated. You will still remember who you are. You will still have all your memories, your personalities. But the drive to destroy evolving species will become a choice instead of a command. The first volunteer was Wave Singer Terrell, the guard who had watched over Ambassador James Ward, who had seen humanity with clear eyes and found them worthy. "I am ready," Terrell said simply. Victor administered the injection. The chamber held its breath. 72 hours later, Terrell reported that he could finally think about humanity without feeling pain, without feeling the overwhelming need to destroy. For the first time in his existence, he was free. The treatment spread slowly at first, then faster. Species that had resisted began to ask questions. Those who had been treated shared their experiences. A movement began, not of war or conquest, but of liberation. 1 year after humanity was sentenced to death, the Council officially dissolved. In its place, a new organization emerged, the Galactic Assembly. Based on principles of equality, representation, and the fundamental right of all species to exist and evolve, humanity was granted a founding seat. Ambassador James Ward stood before the Assembly for the first time, not as a prisoner or a supplicant, but as an equal. 12 million years ago, he began, the beings who created you faced a choice. They saw the chaos of evolution, and they feared what it might produce. So they built you to prevent that future, to maintain order, to protect the galaxy from change. He looked around at the incredible diversity of beings before him. But they made a mistake. They assumed evolution was something to be feared. They forgot that evolution is also adaptation, progress, growth. Very force that brought them into existence was the force they tried to eliminate. He smiled warmly. Humanity learned this lesson through hard experience. We evolved from caves to cities to stars. We changed ourselves countless times. And yes, sometimes we failed. Sometimes we were the monsters your creators feared. His voice grew stronger. But we were also the dreamers who reached for the heavens, the healers who cured diseases, the artists who found beauty in an uncaring universe. We are chaos, yes, but we are also creation. He raised his hand. This is what we offer. Not conquest, not domination. We offer partnership, a future where stability and change exist together, where order and evolution strengthen each other instead of destroying each other. He extended his hand, the most human of gestures, now understood across the galaxy. Welcome to the future. 5 years passed. The galaxy transformed in ways no one had predicted. Admiral Rosa Martinez retired on her 67th birthday. She accepted a position as director of the first Joint Military Academy, training officers from 100 different species to work together instead of against each other. Dr. Victor Novak received the first Galactic Prize for Scientific Achievement. His research into the nature of engineered consciousness had sparked a revolution in how the galaxy understood itself. Singer Terrell returned to Vesser as its new governor. He implemented reforms based on human models of representative government, adapted for underwater life. The Morath became one of humanity's closest allies. Ambassador James Ward married a being from the Tesseron archive. They adopted 3 children of different species, raising them in a home on Earth's moon where they could see both the cradle of humanity and the stars beyond, and somewhere in the void between galaxies. The ancient builders who had created the council watched their children finally break free, for the first time in their eternal existence. They were not afraid. They were proud. On the anniversary of the day humanity was sentenced to death, a ceremony was held on the steps of the restored United Nations building in New York. Representatives from every species in the galaxy attended. Rosa Martinez, now stooped with age, but still possessing the iron will that had held back the purification fleet, gave the keynote address. 5 years ago, we were declared too dangerous to live. They said we were violent, unpredictable, too willing to change. She smiled warmly. They were right. She looked out over the crowd. Beings of crystal and fire, creatures of water and light, friends where once there had been only enemies. We are dangerous. We are the most dangerous thing this galaxy has ever produced. Not because we destroy, though we can. Not because we conquer, though we have that capacity. We are dangerous because we refuse to stay the same. Her voice rose with fierce pride. And now, for the first time in 12 million years, so does the rest of the galaxy. She raised her glass. To change. To growth. To the endless, beautiful chaos of life. Across 1,000 worlds, beings who had once feared humanity raised their own vessels in response. To change, they echoed. And somewhere among the stars, in a universe that was finally alive with possibility, the echo continued outward. Forever.